Okay, we'll call our meeting to order. This is the January 6, 2015 meeting of the Town of Smithtown's Planning Board. Would you all please rise and join us in pledge allegiance to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Before we begin, I'll proceed with tonight's agenda. There are several organizational items that we traditionally do at the first meeting of each year. First of all, I'd like to welcome our new member, Mr. William Marchese of Commack. Bill is a 50-year-plus resident of that hamlet, and we look forward to his service on the board.
Thank you.
Also, at this time, I think I would be remiss in not commending our former member, Paul D'Amato, for his service to this board and the people of Smithtown, as well as my friend Jim Earhart to my right for his service as chairman of this board for the last 2 years. Traditionally, at this time, there are several appointments that are in order. The chair normally appoints the vice chairman, and it is my pleasure to appoint Thomas Unversacht of Kings Park to serve as vice chairman of the planning board for the year 2016. Normally, we would be appointing counsel, and I'm going to ask that we table this till the next meeting. Town board made 2 appointments yesterday, and with barely 24 hours notice, we as a board are not able to sit down and work over some various personnel issues. So that will be dealt with at a subsequent meeting. Also, before the board, we have a meeting calendar. I was brought to my attention that we never formally adopted one, and we have a meeting calendar here, which I checked to make sure there were no religious holidays and conflicts. It's basically the traditional 2 meetings a month with the exception of July and August. Also, since the normal December meeting, the 3rd Wednesday would be close to Christmas, we have moved that meeting to December 14th for that month. If there be no objections, can we have a motion to adopt the calendar?
Motion to adopt the calendar.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The calendar is now adopted. At this point, I will turn the microphone over to staff to read the recommended matters to be adjourned.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Planning Department would like to recommend the following items for adjournment because the applicants are not ready to be heard. Under zoning petitions, number 1, 2012-04, Storybook Homes, Nesconset. Number 2, 2012-02, Carlson Associates, Kings Park. Number 3, 2015-05, Thomas Giswali, Kings Park. Number 4, 2015-11, Samir Mustafa, Commack. Under waiver requests, 5, 773, Scholar Estates, Commack. Number 6, 1135, Tahami Platte, St. James. Under final subdivision, 7, number 1156, map of Open Meadow, Fort Salongo. Under telecommunications applications, number 8, TC 2015-02, SMSA Limited Partnerships, Verizon Upsky Hotel, Hauppauge. Under closed hearings, 9, 2010-06, KVC Holdings, and number 10, 911A, Glen Hill Northern, St. James.
Is there anyone present to be heard on any of these matters that the planning board is now or the planning staff is recommending the board adjourn? There being none, do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn items 1 through 10 as read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The items are adjourned. Okay.
The first item under new hearings is number 11, a final subdivision, number 1157, map of core at Kings Park.
Okay. Council, since we have a new member who was sworn in this afternoon, would it be convenient with you, or okay with you, that we adjourn this matter until Mr. Marchese can do an on-site inspection and be brought up to speed as to,
Fine, you'll adjourn it to the next meeting, I guess,
if
which is
that's your desire, yes.
January 20th?
January
20th.
20th.
January
2
20th.
weeks from tonight.
Okay, that's fine, and it's also on the bottom of the calendar, right? I don't understand why, unless it's a different map of core, but that's gonna be adjourned too, or what is
different-
that?
That's two
Yeah,
different things.
that's another
Two
item.
different matters.
Different matter, same name, okay. That's fine, thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn this item till the January 20 meeting.
Motion to adjourn item 11, number 1157, map of core, to the January 20th, 2016 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Mr. Marco, if you just noticed, 1157 is the one we just adjourned, even though the other one is core, it's got a different number, it's 1169.
Yeah, I think I know that one, that's.
Two separate
I think
matters.
Donald King's representing that one. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is item number 12, a zoning petition, TDJ Comac, LLC Comac, WSI to, and R10 to RMGA. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on this matter? And again, I'd like to reiterate, we have a new member who may not be comfortable voting on this. Would you wish to have this matter adjourned?
I would prefer, Mr. Chairman, that we not adjourn it unless the board feels very strongly that it should be. I mean, it is just a matter for recommendation at this point, and there is a lot of process in front of us, but again, I mean, I'm going to defer to the board if it's important for the board to.
I would appreciate that. I know there was some good discussion on this at previous meetings, and I would like Mr. Marchese to be fully cognizant of your entire presentation and give him time to review the previous minutes and actually walk the site.
Would it make sense, just as a suggestion, to actually have the, let him hear our presentation? And here, I understand that some of the neighbors are here also. So, and then before you ultimately make your decision, have him visit the site?
I would have no objection to that. Board wish to hear the presentation?
Sure. Didn't we hear the presentation already?
Well, you sort of did, right. You had
Oh,
a
we did?
hearing last month, and I can just kind of summarize, and I know that there was a memo that was issued in the last couple of days from the planning department.
Yeah, I mean, if you wish, I have no objection to that, and we do have residents here, I imagine, who would like to be heard as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Anthony Guardino. I'm a partner with the law firm of Farrell Fritz in Hauppauge, New York. I represent the applicant TDG Comac LLC in connection with the change of zone application, which seeks to change the zoning from WSI, the zoning of the site from WSI and R10 residential to RMGA to allow garden apartments. The proposal is for a 3-story, 118-unit garden apartment complex, and that proposal is to have those garden apartments age-restricted. The property is a little bit less than 7 acres, 6.75 acres, south side of Jericho Turnpike. You're probably familiar with the property. I know you said you live in Comac?
Yes.
I used to live in Comac. Okay, yes.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
okay. And I know the hotel's been there motel's been there
long
since
as I
the
can
50s.
remember.
As long as I can remember, exactly. I think I saw somewhere in 1955. So you're familiar with the site. It has about 550 feet of frontage on Jericho Turnpike. The majority of it is zoned R10, but the first third of it roughly is zoned WSI. You have a number of buildings that house the hotel right now. The site has, as you know, very steep slopes on it. The site is elevated. The hotel is kind of up in the woods, up on the hill. We think we're going to be able to use that topography actually to our advantage and to the neighbors' advantage to mitigate any visual impact from the houses that are to the south. And as you know, there are houses to the south off of, I think it's Astor Court. And then to the east, you have the trailer sales, and there's another wholesale business there. To the west, you have the daycare center and Alcamo Pools. Across the street, there's a limousine company and storage facility, and I believe a roofing contractor is across the street. And then there's also some vacant land. And then again, you have the single-family houses to the south. There was a memo that was issued by the planning director last month in December, And as was reflected in that memo, Mr. Flynn found that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the findings of a February 2015 comprehensive plan update, which encourages apartments along Jericho Turnpike. That plan also noted that the town lacks housing diversity that is needed to meet the demands of the present and future demands and needs of the town residents. It also pointed out that nationwide, about 33% of housing is apartments and townhouses, and of course, Smithtown, as we all know, has far less than that. It's actually just about 15%, or less than half of what the nationwide average is. From a planning perspective, the site, we feel, is particularly suited for garden apartments because it is within walking distance to two large shopping centers. Virtually across the street, you have Northgate Shopping Center, and I would say that even Mayfair is walkable from there. I don't think it's more than probably a half a mile, maybe a little bit more. The site is also located on a main highway, obviously Jericho Turnpike, 4-lane road. That road is served by Suffolk County Transit, so there is some mass transit opportunities there. And also, the site is not well suited for either a retail or commercial use because of the topography, which would limit the visibility of any, let's say, retail store, because it would be up in the woods and not visible from Jericho Turnpike, and not really suited for residential uses, which was pointed out in Mr. Flynn's memo, because there's limited frontage. You can only put so many houses that would front on Jericho Turnpike, and the topography is such that it would be very difficult to construct a road up into the woods. So housing would not really be feasible either. The Planning Commission of Suffolk County was referred the application back, I think, in October or November, and it deemed it had no objection to the application and deemed it to be a matter of local determination, which means that the board does whatever it feels is appropriate. We do understand that the planning department has identified a few issues with regard to the site plan itself, but was generally supportive of the use and of the change of zone, and in fact has recommended that the planning board recommend to the town board that the change of zone be approved subject to several conditions. I just wanted to point out that we attempted to meet with some of the neighbors. I did speak with Mr. Boretsky, who I think is here. Okay, great. And we were really trying to have a meeting between the last meeting and this meeting, but unfortunately, because of the holidays, it was very difficult to get everyone together. We were trying to get some members of the community together, but we are happy to meet with them. And our hope is that this board would make a recommendation to the town board that they proceed with the change of zone application, and we will have plenty of time to meet with the neighbors in the interim to address any concerns that they have, and go over the plan and hopefully improve it to their satisfaction. So that's essentially my presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was a little bit remiss. I think you would normally read the memo before the applicant speaks. Is there anything you want to maybe summarize?
We usually do that for the first time that there's a hearing,
Okay.
and normally we don't do it more than once.
So, and you have the planning department memo, and
Right, and I do understand there was a second memo. I got it. I received it today, but I
Okay.
think it was dated yesterday.
okay.
And that was also favorable. I know there were some concerns about one of the conditions in there, but I think the memo was still generally supportive of this application. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Is there anyone present who wishes to be heard on this application? Ma'am? I'm sorry, Oh. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kara Millman, and I live at 23 Astor Court in Comac. I think the proposal actually sounds very good in a lot of ways, but I have a couple of concerns. And so I just wanted to know how these things would be addressed. The first concern I have is during the process of construction and excavation, sometimes these processes can lead to a disruption of a colony of vermin, such as rats. And those of us who live near that would not appreciate rats. I'm wondering if anything can be done preemptively to find out if there are colonies of any kind of vermin and get them dealt with before these creatures invade our yards and our houses. And also, I'd like to point out that a lot of us have beloved pets, and rat poison being all scattered throughout the different yards is very dangerous and fatal to pets if they get a hold of it. So that is one issue. My second question is regarding traffic. I understand that the proposal is for about over 100 units, which could be 100 to 200 residents living in this place. And if they want to go towards the Mayfair Shopping Center, and I believe also Northgate from there, they would be making a left onto Jericho Turnpike, which can be dangerous. I know there was an accident a few years ago when a elderly driver was making a left out of the Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is just very close to that same area, and he was struck because he didn't leave enough time and there was another car coming, and the other car, well, the person who was making the left was killed. So I would think that it would be a good idea to put a traffic light so that the people coming and going out of that garden apartment complex would be not endangering themselves and the other drivers on Jericho Turnpike. If there's no traffic light, and if the people going out of the garden apartments decided to make a right and go through the streets to get to Mayfair, they would be making a right going up Wyandanch Boulevard and going down Astor Court to Verbena through to the shopping center, and that would increase traffic on my street that I live on, and I would not appreciate that. So my vote would be for the traffic light. Those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
They will
you.
be addressed by the representative when the rest of your neighbors speak. Anyone else wish to be heard?
John Beretsky, B as in boy, A-R-E-T-S-K-Y, 49 Astor Court. As their lawyer mentioned, Anthony, there's a few buildings there, and a question was brought up on what roof line would be on the new structure. And there's at least 3 different roof lines now, so I'm curious to see what roof line they're going off of, whether it's going to be higher than the existing. Because I know the front of the building is higher than the back. I walked the property. There's concerns over that. The other thing, it's a 55 and older community. The board could probably answer this. I don't know the rules, excuse my ignorance. But if they build this and it's successful and everything else, somebody walks in, they want to buy it. The new people want to make it Section 8 home, want to make it no age limit. Is that something that has to go through the town to get voted on? Will we be notified if that's the case? I don't know what.
The board has authority to make certain restrictions. Some of them are being discussed.
Because obviously we'd much rather do the 55 and older is much more attractive. The other thing is, we talked about the property line where the retaining wall is going to start 60 feet beyond the property line. From what property line? We have our property line, then we have an easement, and then from the easement, is it 60 feet, or is it from my fence 60 feet? So we're curious to see that so we can get an idea how far it's going to be.
Okay.
And the last thing, and probably most important, is it was brought up by, I believe, after the meeting, their architect said it's going to increase our property value. To me, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but how will this type of thing being built behind our homes affect our taxes? You know, obviously if our property value goes up, our taxes are also going to go up. So that's a concern I have also. And that'll do it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
My name is Craig Krasanik, and I was here at the last meeting as well. I don't have to reiterate. Do I have to
No.
talk about what I
everything
talked about
stated
last time is
previously
on
the
record, so that's fine. What John was talking about, I'm his neighbor, and my concern was also about that easement and where the retaining wall drops. how far again before it drops again, how far again before it drops again. That's my biggest concern. And the line of sight from my back bedroom window, which is, 20 feet above ground level. Also, my concern would be is if this does go through and, I have no really big problem for it, if I'm not happy with the line of sight, can my property fence be raised, or can they put some more trees or shrubbery there? Or what will be maintained as far as trees and blockage and boundaries?
That's a concern I have.
Because
and I
there is
raised it in the
some,
last
there
meeting.
is some forestry there now.
And I think
I'd
they
like to
would-
leave it there.
I think when you're done, and your neighbors are done, they can respond to that, because I would be interested in
Okay.
following that as well.
All right, other than that, I don't have anything more new to add to what I had last time.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? There being none, counsel, if you'd like to respond to some of the questions raised?
Yes. The lady from Astor Court who asked about the rodents, what I can say on that is that before any buildings, since it's a Suffolk County Health Department requirement, that before any buildings are demolished, you actually have to have a rodent inspection and extermination before that process takes place, because exactly what you're concerned about happens all the time. And so they want to preclude that. So, and before we even get a demolition permit, we will have to complete that process. So there will be rodent control measures that are put into place. As far as traffic, I mean, we're going to have to look at that. I don't know whether a light is warranted. It's not something that it's not our choice. So, that's just something we'll just have to investigate. And then Mr. Beretsky mentioned about the height of the structure. What I understand from my client, Rob Denoto, who's here, that the height of the building will not be higher than the tallest existing structure that's there. So we're not going up any higher, so the roof line would be the same. As far as the setback, it's 60 feet from the property line, and I have to apologize because I'm not aware of any easement. I didn't see anything, so if you guys can...
We have a fence.
Please.
I'm sorry, we have to talk to the board. I can talk to him afterwards. I just wanted to make the point that
Okay.
I'm not aware of an easement, and I'll talk to you afterwards, and you can point it out to me. But I still think that the setback, because the property is ours, the setback line would still be from the property line. And there will be increase in planting, because I understand that the planning department's condition is that it be 60 feet, setback 60 feet, but 30 feet have to be heavily vegetated. So to answer your question is there will be more vegetation in that first 30 feet, which is pretty significant.
Okay.
The last gentleman also mentioned the easement, and I'll have to look at that. And same thing with the line of sight. The building's not going to be taller than the existing building that's there. And again, the trees will be added. And then I guess, Mr. Beretsky, one other thing you mentioned about the property values. I can't quantify that, what the increase will be. I can almost assure you, I'm not a real estate expert, but, given, the old buildings that are there in the use, that this will be a significant increase in property value of the site and of the surrounding properties. How that will impact your own taxes, I don't know. I think it would help lower your taxes, because I'm, again, not knowing what the numbers are, but I would think that the property taxes that will be paid on this property after it's developed with garden apartments will far exceed the amount of taxes that are being paid by the current owner for the hotel, or motel, I'm sorry. So I think that's going to be a positive. But-
I think the main question I had previous is what the new elevation is. How much are you going to be excavating from the site? What would the new elevation be? I mean, you'd have to take a significant amount, and how high would the retaining wall be? And I believe you said it would be two-tier, or?
Well, I know that planning had a concern about the original proposal that was made for the retaining wall, and that they wanted us to change that. And I know at one point, I don't know if it was going to be two walls or one wall and a sloped,
Okay.
a slope of vegetation. I guess at this point, we understand that planning wanted us to tweak the site plan. So we're kind of bifurcating it a little bit and trying to deal with the zoning now, with the understanding that the site plan is going to change somewhat. and we just haven't worked through that. But, you know, we're going to work through it. We're confident that we can
Okay.
figure out how we're going to do that retaining wall to make it acceptable to the neighbors, to the town, and something that will work for us.
Now, the adjacent property is a fence, and there is a fence which I assume runs along the property line.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be 60 feet from the fence?
Yes.
Pretty much so.
Yes.
So I think that might answer some. I'm
That I'm
sorry,
not aware of, so I am going to talk to them afterwards.
Okay.
It sounds like we're going to have some time because
Yes.
Mr. Marchese?
Marchese, right.
Marchese is going to go out there, and that will give us actually time to
Okay.
clarify. But the hope is that we don't have to come back for another hearing. Would the board be then in a position to?
I think
vote
so,
at some
unless,
point? Okay.
you know, you're
Unless there's a
welcome,
problem.
as well as the residents are welcome to come back, you know, at that point. Is
Right.
there any other members of the board that has any questions?
I got a question regarding, what's the timeline from the time that, I mean, once all the paperwork is done, that demo starts, demo completes, saying when the property is graded, said the mining start and the building begins?
Well, I mean, I guess the answer to that question you're talking about after all approvals are in place?
Yes.
Let me just check with my client. You have? Thank you. You know, my client is telling me that he'll get started immediately. They want to get moving. So as soon as the approvals, but we have a long way to go, as you know. I mean, we have to go to the town board, then there's going to be site plan approval. There may be some variances, which would require us to go to the zoning board. So there's a lot of process in front of us.
Okay.
My only concern was when, because this is a decent piece of property, and obviously there's a lot of grading that's going to be going on, just how long that mining is.
Oh, how long is the construction process?
Well, I mean, I'm not too worried about the construction of, you know, creating the foundation and the stick build. It's just the sand mining itself. When, you know, when the property gets mined, how long is that process?
The site excavation
Yes.
work. The estimate is several months. You know,
Okay.
okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, do you mind
Yes.
if I add a
Please
little
do.
information? With respect to the traffic signal, that's normally determined by the Department of Transportation, the New York State Department of Transportation. The town and the property owner have not much say in what kind of traffic control would be required.
Well, the Jericho Turnpike there is a state road.
Correct, correct. A second thing with respect to the values, the Suffolk County Planning Commission did a study of apartments in Suffolk County, and as of 2011, the ones that are in the town of Smithtown generate approximately $2,000 more in taxes than they cost in terms of services if you're looking at the school district, school taxes. So that should reduce the tax burden in the community if this were built. The third thing, with respect to the retaining wall, my coworkers and I have the opinion that the retaining wall that was recently constructed for the office building on the south side of Jericho Turnpike is disappointing. There's a tall, cribbed concrete wall with planting that is very tall. In our opinion, it's unsightly, and we would not like to see that happen again anywhere. We're only advisors, but our recommendation to you and to the town board would be for some alternative. And our recommendation at this point is to leave half of the 60 feet in its natural wooded condition, and the other half would be a slope that would be planted with evergreens, things like cedars and Leland cypress and pines and so forth. So it would be like, at the top of the hill would be more or less flat to the fences, but wooded, and then as you head north toward Jericho, slopes down steeply, but would be basically every square foot would be covered with evergreen trees. And then at the bottom of that, whatever's left would be the retaining wall. It would probably be on the order of 6 feet high.
Okay, would that adversely impact their plans as far as erecting structures
It
and
doesn't
parking?
change the setback of their building.
Okay,
The building as drawn right now doesn't comply with the zoning ordinance. So they couldn't build it unless they get variances. If they want to get those variants, there'll be another public hearing before the Board of Zoning Appeals. So if you recommend approval, and if the town board actually does change the zone, their next step is probably going to be to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for different kinds of variances. If they get those variances, then they would go for site plan approval, and then lastly, a building permit. If they don't get the variances, they would have to redraw their plans quite a bit.
which would reduce the number of apartments and,
Not necessarily. We did a study in-house that looks like they could probably get about the 118, I think, that they're looking for.
Have
But
you-
it wouldn't look like what they're drawing.
have you communicated with them on this?
Peter Hans in our staff has,
Okay.
so, thank you.
Any other questions? At this time, I guess we'll make a motion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn 2 weeks or to the January 20th meeting. And it'll give Mr. Marchese a chance to do an on-site as well as now. I think I would probably go back a third time myself, just to see what the view is from Astor. Do we have a motion to adjourn this item till January 20th?
In the matter of TDC Comac, number 2015-13, I move that we adjourn this matter to the January 20th, 2016 meeting of this board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion's carried. The next two items that we have requests for adjournment by the applicant or their attorney. 1039, have they requested a date certain when they contacted your office?
They have not requested. So that's
Yeah, my understanding from Allison is they requested 2 meetings away.
2 meetings away, which would...
February 3rd.
February 3rd? Okay, and that goes to the date for both of these items?
No, just for Garden Gate.
Garden Gate, okay. Motion to adjourn Garden Gate, 1039 for 1 month or February 3rd.
In the matter of Garden Gate at St. James, number 1039, it moves that we adjourn that matter to the February 3rd, 2016 meeting of this board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, motion's carried. Item number 14, map of core land division, Kings Park. That's also requested to be adjourned.
Right, the applicant's attorney had a death in the family,
Yes.
so there's nothing in writing. My suggestion is perhaps the board should adjourn it to a date certain.
Okay.
And if the applicant can't make that particular meeting, then adjourn it again to another date certain.
That's fine. We'll go for January 20th. We all in agreement on that? Motion?
Matter of Core Land Division, Kings Park, number 1169, and move that we adjourn that matter to the January 20th, 2016 meeting of this board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, motion's carried. We have other matters, which I would assume is the adoption of the minutes for November 18 and December 2 of 2015.
Motion to adopt the November 18th and December 2nd, 2015 minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, the motion is carried. Is there any other business to come before the board? If there being none, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?